April 26, 2004, Perry, Georgia. 4 teenagers steal a car and lead officers Chris Sutcliffe, Eric Barnett, and others on a high-speed chase. It looks like the kids are on a joyride. What the officers don't know is that they're armed and very dangerous.
I was probably on the phone talking to my friend for 4 or 5 minutes when I noticed a truck come off the interstate. I stayed on the phone for probably, I guess, 10 seconds until I noticed a House and County SO car coming behind it with its lights and sirens on. That's when I realized that the deputy was chasing the truck. Anytime you get involved in a chase where you've got your lights and sirens on, you're going a high rate of speed, your heart beats a little bit because you never know what's going to happen. This guy's decided not to stop for a police officer or a deputy for whatever reason. That can't be good.
Maybe 30 seconds or so, he come over the radio and said, "Come on, he's running." So I pulled out after him.
It's going to be a burgundy color, like a Chevy or GMC pickup truck. I'll be all behind the deputy.
I probably stayed behind the deputy for couldn't been more than a couple minutes. We were at a pretty high rate of speed.
By the time I got up to speed, they had already got off the interstate and were going down the bypass. So I took a shortcut to try to block them off or cut the chase off.
This is coming to an end. Either they're going to wreck and they're all going to die, or there's going to be horrible injuries. God forbid, hit another car. So you just never know what's going to happen, but you know something's going to happen. The area that this truck went into is an industrial park, which has very sharp turns. And there's only going to be 1 or 2 ways that they could have gone. So either way, I expected an accident. As it turned out, they made an unpredicted left-hand turn down Valley Drive. It's such a sharp S-curve. You really can't hold it more than about 50 miles an hour. And they were going probably 70 to 80 plus going down that road.
When I was coming up Airport Road, that's when Chad come over the radio and said that they had just crashed.
Okay, we just 1050 right here at the bridge.
As I came through the curve, I could see the truck had wrecked up against the telephone pole.
1050 in the curve back here by the bridge.
I remember getting out of the car, we're probably no more than 20 or 30 feet from the truck that wrecked. And so as I'm running up to the truck, my gun's already out. Chad started walking away. I immediately figured he was going to go cut our sirens off or get a first aid kit. The sirens are so loud, you almost can't hear what's going on. They were, I'll say young kids, they were teenagers. So I went over to the passenger door and I noticed a young girl with long brown hair. She had her hands up in the air. She'd look at me and then she'd turn back and look at the driver's side door. The door had been crinkled from where the truck hit the pole. Well, I better walk over to the driver's side, because if I don't, she's liable to slide out the driver's door, which was staying open, and those 3 guys that were on the ground, they could just take off running into the woods. So as I walked around the back side of the truck, I actually started to put my gun up in my holster. I noticed that of the 3 people that were on the ground, it was 2 guys and a girl. I could still see 2 of them's hands. But I noticed that the other guy was on his knees and he had his back toward me. Not even thinking, I just walked closer to him. As he turned around, I could see the broadside of a gun swinging sideways toward me. I remember thinking to myself, is that a gun? And then it was like disbelief, like, what's he doing with a gun? Time slowed down. Next thing I knew, my ears were ringing and my arm was up in the air and my gun had dropped down and my arm was stinging, so I immediately put 2 and 2 together and knew I'd just been shot. What he used was a .45 caliber pistol that had a hollow point to expand upon impact and create a lot of damage. And I remember having enough time to think, roll that way? No, that's open field. Maybe I should go to the left because there's a fence. As I was backing up, after he shoots me, he spins and he shoots at Chad.
Whenever I got there, I saw Chris falling. I was nervous, I was shaking. I don't remember pulling my weapon. I don't remember pulling the first 5 or 6 shots. I went to the light pole and reloaded. I'm going to do what I have to do to go home at the end of the shift.
Shots fired, officer trouble. Officer trouble, shots fired.
Eric goes up to the window and he shoots through the back window. When he does that, the guy actually was going into the cab of his truck to get another magazine for his gun.
I was thinking Chris is still back there with this guy, and we've got to get to him. I went over the bed of the truck, through the back window, and took a shot at the guy. It hit him in the back of the head. It didn't kill him.
Well, the guy goes, picks up my gun, crawls back over to the rear of the tire, and he keeps shooting.
I reached up underneath the truck and I shot 5, 6, 7 times and hit him.
Eric hits him, I think, 3 times, mostly in the legs, and that's what stops it.
When it was all over with, I felt like I'd been run over by a truck. It was just such an adrenaline dump.
Hindsight's 20/20. If you had to do it over again, I would have stopped at the tailgate and kind of kept a covered position and you know, waited for him to do what he was going to do. It pretty much back to where my elbow is. I was pretty much out of commission for about a year. You know, when you sit at home and you think about it, you go, well, at least I'm here. Even if I lose my arm, it's better not to have an arm than to be dead. So you always got to look at, I guess, the best part of it.
The 4 teenagers were convicted on charges that included theft and aggravated assault. They are currently serving their sentences in Ohio. On trial for child support, David Arroyo, armed with an automatic weapon and body armor, shoots his wife, killing her. Deputy John Smith and Sergeant Rusty Jacks immediately respond to the chaos.
11, how about a pepper shot fired at an office for the north end of Lobo Hill?
I was standing in the parking garage on the 2nd floor of the Sheriff's Department and started hearing shots fired.
I had my rifle in my hand whenever the call went out, and so I was trying to get to the square as quickly as possible. The fact that I had my rifle in my hand when the call went out, to me, I guess is just fate.
As far as I knew then, we had an officer that was dead.
I didn't feel fear, more of a determination or knowing what needed to be done. I heard the final shots being fired as I pulled up. When I got to the square, there were people laying on the ground everywhere. I didn't know who had been shot and who wasn't. I came across Officer Wayne Allen, who was in a patrol vehicle. Thinking that the suspect was on foot, I jumped on Wayne's hood. Planning to ride around the corner and engage the suspect from outside the vehicle. I think any good police officer has already made it up in their mind that they could be killed doing this job. Finally, I heard the radio traffic and realized it was a vehicle pursuit. I heard that the suspect was northbound on Spring Street.
Probably 4 Tyler Police Department patrol cars running lights and sirens. He's just hanging the gun out there. This guy's not afraid to shoot police officers, civilians. In my mind, I just wanted to stop him.
We're still northbound, speed 40. The barrel of the gun is the driver's window.
I knew he had a lot stronger weapon than me, you know, armor piercing. It went clean through my car and my body armor. He wants a shootout. I think he wanted to kill more officers or whoever else got in his way.
I knew that we were a double-man unit and that I had a rifle, so Wayne and I went to the front of the pursuit.
I felt I needed to do something. I mean, I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just wanted to stop the guy. And he clearly wasn't fleeing. He was trying to lure us in. I noticed they were just, you know, kind of hanging back to see what he would do, and that gave me the opportunity to pass all the patrol cars up and get in behind him.
I got to the front of the pursuit. We were passed by a sheriff's deputy.
He fired 2 shots at me when I got right up behind him. That's when I ran to him. I know as well as anybody, you can't shoot at somebody while you're being rammed. He braked when I hit him. The bumper of his truck was staring me in the face because it came up on top of my car.
I began trying to get out of the vehicle, started hearing gunshots.
I just unloaded my gun on his back window. I tell you, when I got scared is when I ran out of bullets. I see him start to get out, and I'm just a sitting duck. My thought is, I'm fixing to get shot if I don't do something. You know, we're not even 20 feet apart when he gets out of the vehicle. A lot of adrenaline flowing, and I gassed him. And as I was going around his truck, that's when he shot through my overheads.
saw David Arroyo come around with his rifle to his shoulder. I shouldered my weapon, and at which point I came up and fired. Clipped the cab of the truck and struck David Arroyo on the back of the head.
I saw him go down, and I just eased up there and stopped his truck from rolling.
Observed that he was wearing body armor. We found a scoped rifle in his truck. The amount of ammo that he had with him, things like that were surprising.
I worked the interstate. My biggest fear before this was getting hit by a car. Now my biggest fear is somebody pulling a gun. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I mean, I couldn't. In nearly 17 years of doing this, I guess it all came to play.
Arroyo's reign of terror outside the courthouse was brief, but resulted in 2 deaths and dozens of injuries. For his bravery under fire, Deputy Smith was honored with a prestigious commendation bar from the county. Chicago postal inspectors had received a tip of an employee stealing federal checks. Postal Officer Al Correa and backup officer Greg Stacy Eunice go undercover to catch the thief. But the sting turns into a life-or-death struggle.
I was in the office. I received a call on the undercover line.
He has 2 checks. I called yesterday.
Basically, this guy thinks that we're gonna buy checks at a reduced rate.
We negotiated a price of $170.
The checks were stolen out of the mail. They were either stolen somewhere in the post office and/or mailboxes. This was a buy-in walk where we would buy the checks, give him the money.
We met with Frank before. We weren't talking a lot of money. Just seemed a very low-risk individual.
We set up the deal for the next day at a restaurant parking lot. On that particular day, we had 2 or 3 people in the van. We also had a chase vehicle that would have followed Frankie after the deal, seeing who he met with and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know how much time you want to give him in case he doesn't show up right away. I'll probably give him about 10 minutes, and that'll be it.
Backup team got there first.
Roughly half a block away.
Shutting down, moving in. Sounds good.
We pulled up, looked over, and at the bus stop I saw who I believed to be Frankie. He got in the car.
Hey, Frankie?
He told me that he didn't have the 4 checks, that he only had a couple of them.
Hey, the guy, he turned in the other one because he got tired of waiting, man.
Oh, man, is the only one you got?
Give me some story on why he didn't have it. Then he stuck his hand in his coat pocket.
You know what? You give me all your motherfucking money, I'll blow your motherfucking head off right now.
When he first pulled it out, I gotta tell you, I mean, I was lost all thought. I can't believe it's gonna end like this. You know, some guy over checks.
Give me the money.
Money?
Yeah, bitch.
All right.
Then all of a sudden, on the radio, I hear, it's a ripoff. It's a ripoff. So I just hightail it over there as fast as I could.
My whole job as the undercover inspector was to stall, tried to count out the money bill by bill, which didn't go over too well.
Right now.
You got it. What the money, you got it.
He took the money.
Man, give me the motherfucker.
They radioed over to me and said, hey, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. My first inclination was just to broadside my vehicle into the passenger side of Al's vehicle. And I had to fight everything I could to not do that.
Turn the car and take me out of here.
He wanted me to drive Potomac and Austin.
You don't take me to Potomac, okay?
To Potomac?
Potomac and Austin.
My undercover weapon was a 5-shot Smith & Wesson. I could feel it on my waist, but I just couldn't get to it quick enough.
Just be cool for a second and we'll talk
Man, shut
about
the f up and move the f watch it in the stomach.
My goal was to get him to point the gun away from me.
Just point that thing away from me. You're making me
Nah.
There's some prearranged signals that we work out, you know, called the arrest signal. And in this situation, it was tapping the brake lights. But he wasn't giving the arrest signal.
This is a federal case, these checks. Who the you with, bitch?
With no
Well, get reversed and get the out of here.
Get the out of here.
If I had any type of advantage, it would be exactly where I was.
Just go, man.
You're gonna shoot me. There's a million.
I don't give a I'd rather have that than the federal case, bitch.
But after a while, him calling me bitch, I gotta say, was irritating me.
What the you talking about?
I'm gonna shoot you.
I don't want you to shoot me. Just stay cool.
Okay then, let's get the out of here then.
He said that, you know, he's hurting and he needs his drugs.
Shot me up at the dope dealer. That sounds sick, all right?
Saying,
You're gonna leave me there and I'm gone.
okay, I'm taking you.
What I told him is, all right, then basically we're gonna be leaving now, just to calm him down and buy, you know, another second or two.
Let's go.
Oh
Let's go.
God. Said you were.
Let's go, man.
Please don't point.
Man, you get
He needed his fix, and you know he's gonna get his money that day, whether it was from me or somebody else. But he absolutely needed his fix.
I got it in my arm. If it's gonna shoot through my arm and through your
At one point, he did point it away from me long enough.
The signal was given, parked my vehicle right behind the undercover. I get out of my car.
He turned around to see Greg.
I drew down on him. He lost his gun. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was just a jellyfish.
Okay.
I made my move to grab my weapon just in case he decided to turn around and try and shoot me.
Get out! Get out!
Frankie did have like a sheepish grin as soon as he saw the gun. Like, all right, you got me, put it down.
Get out! Get out!
And I think once the gig was up, he knew that he was beaten and just gave up. He's paid the price for making a mistake. Fortunately, I didn't pay the price for him making that mistake.
Frankie Alicea received 27 years in a federal prison for charges that included possession of stolen checks and assault on a federal officer. He is currently serving his sentence in Pekin, Illinois. December 7th, 1994, Selma, Alabama. Canine Officer Jay Dempsey is on morning patrol in a neighborhood known for drug dealing and gun activity. What should have been a routine check becomes a life-or-death struggle.
Or the dispatcher put out a call that they had youth were gambling and had possibly been drinking and skipped school. I go to the area and started talking with them and explained to them it was time to go. Most of them left except one guy, and I could see that he was holding something in his hand. When I made my first mistake, I patted him down with him facing me. Some drugs fell out of his leg onto the ground. He saw it the same time I did. As I grabbed him on the arm and stated he was under arrest, he started struggling. And I'm thinking any second it's going to be over. That second turned into a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And I realized he was stronger than me. The dog's there, I'm there. He's still not giving up. Let me get him some help. And at that time, he was able to get my firearm away from me.
He says 845 pieces.
He said, today you're going to die. This is about as bad as it's going to get. That's when I hear the instructor from the academy say, get your butt off the ground and fight, son, because you're fixing to lose your life right here. When he pulled the trigger, I thought, well, I'm dead. But the gun didn't go off. I was able to start to regain my footing, start the surrender position. The dog distracted him. She engaged him. I made my move and realized I have a backup gun. He was still trying to pull the trigger, and he was fixing to clear it. I fired what I thought to be 2 rounds. He fell over behind a bush, and when I approached him, he still had my weapon, and he pointed at me again and tried to pull the trigger. I did everything I could to prevent this, and he backed me in a corner, and I had no choice. I realized after when they took my backup weapon and my primary, they asked me how many rounds I'd fired, and I said 2. They said, well, how many do you carry in your backup? And I said 5. And they said, well, they're all gone. It's called the fastest 4 seconds. If you haven't prepared from the minute you got up that day, but the day you're not going to die, there's a possibility somebody could get the drop on you.
The suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. Officer Dempsey has since transferred to a larger department where he continues to work in high-risk areas.